abdominal pelvic cavity. Okay? And that's significant because it means that in order for me to actually expose the vessels, I have to tear apart the peritoneal lining here. So the vessels are that way too. So I've basically torn this open so you can see that the kidney is very common, very large structure. They're offset. We'll see that more next term. But there's several tubes that come out of it. And this tube is, I want to point this out now, simply because you'll see a lot. This is the ureter. And basically, it's the structure that drains the urine from the kidneys, and it goes right into this little knobby structure right here called the urinary bladder. And you can actually see where the connection point is. The other parts that we have on our list that have to do with the kidney are the renal vein, which is the blue structure here, and the renal artery, which is just above it, the red structure right there. The renal artery being somewhat smaller than this, mainly because of the laxity and thinness of the walls during the injection. So the renal artery here, the red one, renal vein just below. Can't miss it, okay? This is where red and blue do help. Okay, okay, now along the midline, of the backbone here, you also have two other large structures, and they run pretty much side by side. So this big blue one, which again is continuous with what we saw here, and the probe is under it there. There's some nerves running over the top of it. That is the inferior vena cava. Okay, and next to it is a large muscular abdominal aorta, which I put the probe under now. This looks thinner, but actually it's only because it's a thick-walled structure. So this large vessel that you see right here, can you see that? Everybody see it? That's the abdominal aorta. So it runs all the way down. It basically starts in here where it's called the dorsal aorta, which we can't really see because I haven't exposed that. And then it goes through the diaphragm into the abdominal cavity, runs along the backbone, and sends off branches to either side of the body. Okay? As it does so. We're going to look at several of those. When it gets down into the inguinal area, it then terminates or ends, and it ends in the iliac arteries. The iliac arteries are in the inguinal region, and they go from there and change names, and they go into the legs and become the femoral arteries. Okay? So we'll look at that. This actually shows up reasonably well in this specimen.
Does that have something to do with being close to the iliac part of the bone?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because the split is usually in the upper part of the pelvis, so right around the iliac, or the ilium, I should say. So essentially, I'm going to move the ureter out of the way, and as you get down there, you can see here's this single structure that you see right here, still the common carotid. Okay, can you all see that? I mean, I'm sorry, common carotid. Sorry, abdominal aorta. Sorry, common carotid's up here. And then I'm not listening to what I'm saying here. So, and then when it splits down here, you see this Y, and this is where it goes into the iliac artery. See that?
So from that Y, it goes into left and right iliac arteries, or is there just
yes,
one?
there's left and right. And so if you look at it, we've got the external, it should be external iliac. So we don't have a common or internal iliac artery.
Point that out again, I'm sorry.
So here's the abdominal aorta,
okay.
And here
And
you see the branch.
Okay.
So basically you see the Y here.
Okay.
And I've separated the one out on the left side so you can see where it goes. So essentially this is external iliac right down in here. And then from there, it's now in the thigh. So this is now the femoral artery. And actually, right about in this region.
Is there another Y to distinguish where it turns into femoral?
To the femoral, no. There's actually a branch point here that you don't see very well. It goes into the deep femoral right about here. There's also a pudendal, which we're not going to worry about, that goes deep right over here. And goes into the tail. Okay. You don't have to have that. No. So, well, we have a pudendal artery. It's the same. Goes into for the coccyx and also part of the genitalia. So basically, what you have here is the femoral artery. You got the femoral vein, and if you look closely, right between them, there's our femoral nerve right there. Okay. So the artery, vein, and nerve run together.
They're bundled.
They're bundled together. Right? Vascular bundle. Yeah. Right. So now if you were to follow this through, you could dig out all the arteries. They go deep in here, but we're only going to look at the veins. And so you'll see that as you go across the knee, then there's a major branch that becomes superficial. Okay, this is the saphenous vein. Okay, right here, it's medial. It becomes a very superficial. This is one of the places where they do the injections. This one isn't totally ruptured. And is not. So sometimes they get totally blown out, so you can't find them. So this is pretty good shape.
What injections do they do?
Huh?
The color.
The latex. Yeah.
Like a medical treatment?
No, in terms of preservation. Okay.
So what was that one again?
That's a saphenous vein. In humans, it would be called a great saphenous. I think in your book they call it great saphenous, but cats don't. They have a saphenous. Okay.
How far
Now,
down does that one go?
Huh?
How far down does that one go?
in humans, it goes down to the ankle,
Okay.
just like it does in us. And basically, just like it does in us, there's little valves in it. And the saphenous vein is one of the ones that, that is responsible for varicose veins when you're standing. When the valves break there, then pooling stands, gets down your ankles, your feet hurt a lot, things like that. And so this is one of the areas that oftentimes, if it gets really bad, it's removed or stripped, or sometimes, injected with something to fill it up so it's no longer used.
I was.
Oh, you were?
Go
What?
ahead.
And they, I don't know that they still do, but they used to take the veins out of your leg.
Right, they'll use a saphenous
They'll
vein
use
if it's
the
in good
saphenous?
shape. Yeah.
So what if
Because-
they replace the saphenous?
They don't need to. I mean, realize the saphenous vein is draining. This is one that, there's small branches that can actually fill this back in and drain the tissue from that. So this is a low pressure circuit, okay? So, that's why you don't have to worry so much about it. And they can get away in the bypasses with that because relative to the size, the pressure going into the cardiac tissue itself is going to be lower than the pressure going into the aorta. So it'll work,
Okay.
okay? Because it's a fairly good sized vessel. The iliac vein. So now, if we go back up into the abdominal region and we find the inferior vena cava here, and we follow it posteriorly where it's actually draining. If I move this out of the way, I'll move the aorta out of the way, or the abdominal aorta out of the way. I'm going to put a probe there. I'll get another probe and lift up, and you can see that the vena cava also splits. Just kind of do some leverage here. And you can see that there's a Y, but it's not in the same position as the Y. It starts sooner, okay? So this is the vena cava. So it starts out with a common iliac right at the branch point, very short common iliac, and then it goes in and parallels the external iliac artery, and it's an external iliac vein there. The internal iliacs follow the pudendal, and you can't really see them. So they're not well dissected here, so we're not going to worry about it.
So
That's the vena cava there?
This is the vena cava where it's singular.
Okay.
So the vena cava is up here, and where
That's
where
the blue?
it's the blue.
Okay.
Where it branches, see this branch point?
Okay, now I
See the branch? So here's the other piece of it. I'm trying to keep all the arteries out of the way. So this is the external iliac artery. This is a common iliac vein. Here's a common iliac vein here. They continue, they'll parallel. Now it's external iliac vein. Same thing, okay? And then there's an internal that branches off here, but you can't see it. So that's not available.
No,
And
it
then-
looks like it narrows. Gets
it does, and it comes right into the femoral vein. Okay? So it actually, if we follow this, see if I can do this without wrecking it. There's a little thing that I don't want to break right here. It's called the vas deferens that we're going to need. So I don't want to wreck it. So